this primary from a campaign that's about negative attacks into one about what we're for, because we cannot get reelected. We cannot win this reelection. Excuse me, we can only reelect Donald Trump.
Oh, my goodness. What a day for Joe Biden. I'm joined by former Senator Jim Talent, who served alongside of the President of the United States Senate long ago. Good morning, Senator. Think that's going to get better, or is it going to get worse?
Well, I don't see it getting better, Hugh, and it actually points out an interesting aspect of the campaign. So obviously, the outside environment is bad for the Biden administration. Right track, wrong track number, well underwater, the president unpopular, issue sets terrible for the Democrats. But when you have a candidate who can't reliably carry a message, it's difficult to develop a strategy to deal with it, because even if it's a good political strategy, can he pull it off? And so if you're one of his advisors or top people in the campaign, you have to take that into account.
Who knows what he actually was talking about yesterday? That's the only clip I saw. This is what the vice president was talking about yesterday. She gave a podcast to a fella named Maverick Carter, cut number 16.
A lot of my work around access to capital has focused on young men of color, black men and black men, knowing that, again, so many entrepreneurs, and it's when people think black men and small businesses, it's not just a barbershop.
So, Senator Talent, when you think black men and small businesses, do you think barbershops?
No, and I chaired the Small Business Committee in the House for 4 years. And when I hear statements like that, what I deduce from that is she's actually never worked in a hands-on way on minority entrepreneurship, because, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things you could say about that issue that would be relevant, that would be interesting, but not what she said. And so a good follow.
It's a caricature of a campaign.
Yeah, exactly.
I really don't know what the Democrats are going to do. But I have a new column out, Senator. I want to talk to you about it because I name drop you in it. I would like former President Trump to put out a list of his national security appointees. He doesn't have to name the job. We know what those jobs are: Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State, CIA, DNI, Secretary of the Navy, Homeland Security, Attorney General, National Security Advisor, Chief of Staff. I just want a list of people from whom he will draw, and I put your name on that list. Is that a good idea or a bad idea? He liked it, and I like it, but what does Jim Talent think?
Yeah, I think it's a very good idea. Now, he is going to, when you're in the president's position, you're doing two things. You're wanting to win the campaign, but you're also thinking, well, I want to govern well as I can afterwards. So I would not put out a list that locks him in, but I think putting out a list of the kind of people he would appoint would be a very good idea. I mean, I agree with you. And I think, once he gets this trial past him, then I think we're going to see more action along these lines. As you know, he also has a transition organization up and running. It's statutory. And so he's got that to think about as well. They're also vetting candidates. So it's a little more complex than just giving a list. But yeah, I think the idea is a good one. And I suspect we'll see something like that in the next couple of months.
And a list doesn't mean a confirmation. I remember John Tower, everyone thought was going to be a great Secretary of Defense. He didn't get out of the starting blocks, because you never know when someone's going to trip up in the starting blocks. But just to give us a contrast with Tony Blinken and Jake Sullivan, I think would be a great thing. Jim, I want to conclude by getting your opinion on the Trump trial. What do you think is going to happen?
I, like you, have listened to everything Andy McCarthy says about this, and it does seem to me that the chance of a hung jury or an acquittal has gone up. And unfortunately for the Democrats, I think this has developed into a situation where if Trump gets convicted, it doesn't help them politically. But if he gets acquitted or there's a hung jury, I think it could be very bad for them. So what they thought was going to be a really good political maneuver, I think has become one that is at best sort of a neutral thing for them. But we'll see, I mean, you and I both know trying to figure out what juries are going to do, even in a situation like this, where it's so obvious what they ought to do, is very, very difficult.
Yeah, I'm not a criminal defense lawyer, so I don't know what the odds are. All I know is that Michael Cohen melted down on the stand, and if it's not for this judge, who's, I think, a partisan and should have recused himself, this would have been thrown out, Jim. because they didn't state the elements of the crime, the second crime. Well, you get the last minute. I'm still astonished that they did not name the elements of the second crime.
Yeah. Well, look, they haven't proven that the records were false. They haven't proven that Trump knew how the records were going to be recorded. They haven't proven or even said what the crime is that he was supposedly trying to cover up. And their chief witness is probably the biggest perjurer that any prosecutor has ever put on the stand to try and prove his case. So other than that, I guess they're in good shape. I mean, I don't know.
Were you ever a prosecutor, Jim? Were you ever a prosecutor?
No, I wasn't. I do not.
I wasn't either, so I can't ever say I've seen anything like that before because I didn't do criminal defense. But boy, that was a spectacular Hindenburg-like explosion of a witness. Senator Jim Talent, always good to see you. He's Director of National Studies for the National Security Studies for the Reagan Institute, the Reagan Foundation, and I urge you to go follow him on X at Jim Talent.